Feels good to be moving again. That was 3 nights in Bergen, reprovisioned, managed to get round to the chandlery, got some new blocks, got some new courtesy flags. It's fairly early in the morning, it's not quite 9 o'clock yet. It's a late start for me. I was up at 6:30. Looks like it's going to be a fantastic day. The low pressure has blown through, and today we have, well, almost non-existent winds all day. Hopefully there'll be enough, 5 or 6 knots. I can use the sails. I'm not in a hurry today. I'll be quite happy to go anywhere between 10 and 20 miles south of Bergen. Got a few potential anchorages lined up along the route, so wherever I get to, doesn't really matter. It's a mix of emotions really. It's getting close to August. Change of plans. I've decided to, rather than cross back over to Shetland, to head south down to Sweden, Denmark, Germany, Holland and Belgium, and then possibly France and across to Falmouth. Got 2 months to do it in, which means I need to average about 30 miles a day roughly, but I'm sure with a few longer passages actually I'll be able to crack a lot of that fairly quickly. I'm looking forward to seeing new places rather than going back to Western Scotland again. Although I do love Western Scotland, it's a real mix of emotions this morning. Well, after half a dozen tacks, we've finally made it clear of the channel coming up from Bergen, and a bang on course to go under the next bridge and start to turn downwind. There's not a lot of wind, only about 6 knots, but we've got probably 1.5 knots of current as well pushing us along. Well, wouldn't you Adam and Eve it, just as I come in line with the bridge here, the wind shifts to be coming directly from there. Brilliant! Oh well, more tacking. Well, the current is really barreling through here. Got about 2 knots of current. Looks like a lot more when you look at it like this, but sailing slowly here can be a bit troublesome with shipping everywhere. I have to put the engine on to get out of the way of this guy. Stuck myself in the middle between the 2 lanes of traffic. We're barely moving under sail, doing a couple of knots, but we're tacking backwards and forwards, so in reality, in the direction I want to go, we're probably doing less than half a knot. Just motoring the last couple of miles into this little chain of islands here, hoping to find an anchorage. away from the swell from all the passing ships. See that boat there? That's Gabrielle, that is. They've just done 75 nautical miles today, joining me here in the anchorage. Wow. I'm going to have a beer and, well, I'm going to take a beer over to them and then leave them to get some sleep. They must be knackered. Howdy, stranger!
Fancy seeing you here!
This is a lovely spot. Very popular. It was rammed earlier on. Almost all of the boats have left. North of Bergen there were very few boats around. Well, there were a few around the outer islands, but once you went inshore, very few. The whole time I was going through the fjords, I didn't see more than a handful of other boats. So I'm going to spend today here and explore the island a little bit, and then tomorrow move on. There's a little island on the outside that I fancy having a look at. It's got a tiny little anchorage inside the island. Might be fun. So the short-term goal is to get to Helgesund and then from there down towards Stavanger. It's about 50 miles-ish to Helgesund from here. Then it's south towards Sweden. Oh, it's so peaceful. It's going to get busy here later, I imagine. Leroy Island behind us today, heading for Esbever. I've probably murdered the name, but got to give it a go. It's another little island. It's out on the very outside of all the islands, so we're heading out to sea today, hopefully to get some wind. Got 7-8 knots of wind at the moment on the beam, and it's meant to turn from this direction round to the west about midday-ish, so we'll be pretty much on the beam all day, I think. It's nice to be sailing. It's going to be pretty calm for the next few days. There's not much wind in the forecast at all. I think today's is probably the last wind for about 2 or 3 days. So we're making about 20 miles down towards Helgesund, and we'll see if we can sail the remaining 30 in a couple of days' time, maybe. I'd like to explore the island while I'm there. So went for a little walk yesterday with Ian around the island, round on Leroy. Not a lot there, but absolutely beautiful. It's rather rainforesty, lots of moss on the trees, and well, God, it was hot yesterday. Not that I'm complaining. Don't take that as a complaint in any way, shape or form, because it's not. It's definitely warmer here though than in Scotland. Looking at the UK forecast, looks like we're about 5 degrees warmer over here. It's lovely. Bit of cloud this morning, but I'm pretty sure that's going to burn away by noon. Oh, and I caught a fish this morning. Unfortunately, a bit on the small side. Had to go back. Little pollock. Never mind. Wasn't quite big enough for breakfast. Breakfast for a cat, maybe. This is such a peaceful way to travel. Got 3 or 4 knots of wind at the moment. We're running almost downwind, so speed over ground is around 1 or 2 knots. It's just so peaceful. The water's just flat, apart from the occasional wake from a passing ship or boat. Even at 1 or 2 knots, I don't need to do anything. I've got 20 miles to do today, but the wind's supposed to back to the west and increase to around 10 or 12 knots later, so I'm not worried about how long it's going to take me to do the 20 miles. I'll be offshore as well anyway, so I will have proper wind, hopefully, from the direction that it's forecast. Hopefully. It's just lovely spending the morning relaxing like this. What time is it? 10 o'clock here, so 9 o'clock in the UK. People will be starting to work, as I will be shortly. When it's like this, I can just get the laptop out, sit in the cockpit on the laptop. Just got to keep an eye out for shipping. It's quite a busy channel here. There's lots of ferries and fishing boats and cargo ships plying backwards and forwards. But I'm not moving fast enough to be able to get out of their way, so I'm having to rely completely on them staying out of my way. If it looks like there might be some trouble, then I'll be on the radio to them to make sure they've seen me. So far they've all taken a big arc around me and avoided me, so nothing to worry about. Out that gap there, that's the sea, that's open water. I literally just recorded that, and the wind, as I pressed stop, shifted immediately to due west and increased to 10 knots. So of course now we're flying along 3.6, 3.8, 4 knots. There you go. It's 2 hours earlier than forecast, but hey, I'll take wind when there's wind. Flying, yeah! That's cool. We've just about managed to squeak past the headland here without having to tack coming out. Just about. We were about a boat length and a half away from the rocks. Anyway, I need to turn south now through the gap between the islands, and yeah, and we're home free on a beam reach. And there's the sea again. Wow, joyous to see the open ocean again. Slow but gentle progress today. We're only doing a couple of knots. We've got between 4 and 5 knots of wind, and we're running downwind, so not making the most efficient use of it. but it's a lovely day. Can't complain. Should get to the island at about 5 o'clock. Looking forward to getting the anchor down and having my dinner, I guess. Sometimes when I'm sailing, I get haunted by memories. It's difficult to shut them up when you're out here. It's so peaceful. Today's been one of those days. Someone from my past, not that distant past, has just been haunting my thoughts continually today. But it's time to put that one to bed. So I just got to shut that down. Not too far to go to our destination now. We're not going quickly. The wind has dropped to 4 knots, so we're running downwind at 2 knots. And we're about to go over the top of one of the prime fishing spots in the area. Got the lines out, so fingers crossed we might catch something as we go by. Just put the sails away to make our entrance. Got a bridge and power cable to go under, which are 24 meters, and I think it gets a bit narrow in there, but we'll see. Looks stunning, got to say. I think this might be a good choice. Well, that hole there was my get away from people anchorage, and you probably can't see on camera, but it's full of lobster pot markers, so that anchorage is out, which means I'm going under the bridge into the main anchorage, which is surrounded by houses, but never mind. Pretty little spot. And we're anchored. And I've noticed over there, there's a pub. I haven't seen one of those since Bergen. That's the only place I've seen them.